Welcome to On the Other Hand, and a special welcome to these new subscribers and any other new viewers. It's been a while since I've done a response video, and this video by Vox entitled, Do I Want Kids? Has been on my mind. So let's dive right in.
A lot of us have real questions about when and how and whether to become parents. So I'm going to get some data. And why not start with that big assumption, that kids make you happier?
Since about the 1960s, we've had pretty clear evidence that being a parent doesn't make you happier than not having children. Out of the 20 countries that we studied, the United States had the largest gap where parents report that they're significantly less happy than non-parents.
How do you ask survey questions that get at this?
We're not asking people, are you happy you had kids? We're asking people, are you happy? And just asking them to rate their own level of happiness.
It's not just the United States. We see the happiness gap in all of these countries, too.
It's really a parental happiness deficit, and it doesn't occur everywhere. There are a few nation states where parenthood actually improves your average rated happiness, and some of those countries have extremely low fertility rates. That's telling you that people who do decide to have children are unusually attached to kids and want kids very badly.
Does the happiness gap differ depending on wealth, race, gender, or other demographics within the United States?
It really doesn't. We thought perhaps that the gap would be larger for single parents, and it is. We thought perhaps the gap would be larger for mothers than fathers, and it isn't. It grows when you take away the partnership and the stable employment. But once you control for those factors, it's fairly stable across race.
How do parents react, though, when you tell them about this data?
Oh, they hate it. Some of them don't believe it. I have to show them the data from one survey after another. But if we asked parents, have your children made you happy? They would all say yes. I would say yes. Everybody I know would say yes. But what their children have brought into their lives in many ways is anxiety, stress, and financial trouble that they would not have experienced.
So does having kids really make you less happy? Full disclosure on my own bias. I am married and have several adorable young children. So the claim that parents are less happy than non-parents seemed suspicious to me. So I found the study, and their methodology says, those who are non-custodial parents or who have grown children living outside the household are grouped with non-parents. So this study just says if you have kids in the house, you tend to say you are less happy than those who don't have kids in the house. But this seems obvious to me. Kids are an investment, and are a lot of hard work. Of course, having young kids is more stressful than a more carefree lifestyle, but the resulting joy and fulfillment that you see in older couples with grown kids and grandkids came at the cost of some temporary discomfort when they were younger. So it seems silly to me to lump empty nesters and grandparents who don't have kids living with them in the same category as couples who never had kids. So yeah, the framing of the study seems pretty deceptive to me. Then the main lady goes and talks to her friend who has this to say.
What's your take on how seriously we should take this data?
I might be a little biased because I've always been quite ambivalent about the idea of having children, but I think it's worth taking very seriously. There is a huge cultural myth that kids are going to bring nothing but joy to your life, and I think that leads a lot of parents going in with maybe the wrong expectation.
I have never met anyone who has said the kids are nothing but joy, because if I ever had met someone with kids who said that, I would know they weren't firing on all cylinders. Many people, including myself, would agree that kids are a net positive and a joy, but that is far different from saying they're nothing but joy. Anyway, after this, the lady goes and does a whole visualization with rock climbing to show how earnings for men and women are affected by having a baby. And afterwards, they have this to say.
What's interesting is the data shows that for couples who have children under 25 or over 35, the female spouse takes an earnings hit, but actually does catch back up to the male partner.
Interesting.
But for the couples that have kids between 25 and 35, the female partner never catches up.
But it seems to sort of show that there is this core window, 25 to 35, where you are starting your career, setting yourself up for a successful life. And that's a hard window to have a kid.
They talked about setting yourself up for a successful life. Now the big question is, what makes a successful life? Is it money? Is it accomplishments? Is it a career? No, none of those things. Take The Christmas Carol as a prime example. Ebenezer Scrooge financially is amazingly successful, and he is presented as the pinnacle of bad examples. He has nobody who cares for him, including his nephew, the only family he's shown to have. Bob Cratchit, on the other hand, is held up as the ideal. He does not have a great job or a carefree life, but he has a loving family and he works in terrible conditions to support them. And despite hardships, he is wonderfully joyful and generous. Now, am I saying everyone needs to have kids to have true happiness? No. Am I saying careers and financial stability aren't important? Not at all. What I'm saying is that the tried and true best shot at finding joy in this life is to get married and have kids of your own. To quote C.S. Lewis, "The homemaker has the ultimate career. All other careers exist for one purpose only, and that is to support the ultimate career." This whole idea of joy reminds me of a talk from George Lucas.
I've discovered along the way that happiness, you live in two worlds here. Happiness is pleasure, and happiness is joy. It can be either one. You add them up and it sort of falls under the uber category of happiness. Pleasure is short-lived. It lasts an hour, lasts a minute, lasts a month. And it peaks and then goes down. It peaks very high. But the next time you want to get that same peak, you have to do it twice as much. It's like drugs. You have to keep doing it because it insulates itself, no matter what it is. Whether you're shopping, whether you're, engaged in any other kind of pleasure, that all has the same quality about it. On the other hand is joy, and joy is a thing that doesn't go as high as pleasure in terms of your emotional reaction, but it stays with you. Joy is something you can recall. Pleasure you can't. So the secret is that even though it's not as intense as the pleasure, the joy will last you a lot longer. And people who get the pleasure, they keep saying, well, if I can just get richer and get more cars, you'll never relive the moment you got your first car. That's it. That's the highest peak. Yes, you can get 3 Ferraris and a new Gulfstream jet, and maybe you'll get close. But you have to keep going, and eventually you run out. You just can't do it. It doesn't work. So if you're trying to sustain that level of peak pleasure, you're doomed. It's a very American idea, but it just can't happen. You just let it go. Peak, great. Pleasure is fun. It's great. But you can't keep it going forever. Just accept the fact that it's here and it's gone. And maybe again it'll come back and you'll get to do it again. Joy lasts forever. Pleasure is purely self-centered. It's all about your pleasure. It's about you. It's a selfish, self-centered emotion that's created by a self-centered motive of greed. Joy is compassion. Joy is giving yourself to somebody else or something else. And it's a kind of thing that is, in its subtlety and lowness, much more powerful than pleasure. If you get hung up on pleasure, you're doomed. If you pursue joy, you will find everlasting happiness. So with that, I'm gone. Bye-bye. Thank you.
The man speaks truth. The funny thing is, everyone fundamentally understands this, including the host of this YouTube original video. Because at the end of this video, she has this to say to her mom.
The truth is, I'm not going to be making this decision based on statistics. I'm going to be making this decision based on my own feelings and my own family and my own potential family. And one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is I really, truly, over the course of my life, would love to do for another person what you did for me. And I would love to be the kind of mom to somebody that you were to me.
Girl now, she's 6 months old today.
And I would love to have the kind of relationship as an adult that you and I have now. And I just wanted you to know that.
Thank you, Cleo. That means a lot to me.
And it really is a big part of my decision making.
It turns out even the host knows that having kids is about that connection, that relationship, and that joy. Now, being a good parent and raising kids to be good people is probably one of the hardest things one can do in this life. But I also don't know of anything more rewarding or fulfilling. As always, thanks, hope you enjoyed. And if you did, consider subscribing or joining me on Odyssey, a great YouTube alternative. Link is in the description.